I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We are joined by Zeros Ocean. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
How are you doing?
Appreciate you coming on. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
My name is Zeros Ocean. I am a VTuber, and I just want to make people smile.
Well, you've been able to do that for a while now. When did you get started?
Oh, it's been, I think, around a year and 3 months now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you got started, did you have the idea that you'd still be rolling, or was it something you're just kind of testing out?
At first, I was like, I should probably experiment. I bought like a VTuber model that was only like $20.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna see how it goes. And I just really got into it. And I was like, oh, I'm actually, people are enjoying my content. I'm making people smile, I'm making their day. So
Yeah.
it's literally like the perfect hobby for me.
So how did that hit you when you realized that people were, in fact, tuning in for you? They were going out of their way to come and watch and listen to you.
Honestly, easily satisfied. It started with, the typical only one person. I had my viewer count off
Mm-hmm.
because, I didn't want to get troubled by the view count and anything. And then eventually, people just started to come and chat. And I made so many wonderful friends that I still talk to today. So
That's perfect. So was that the reason why you wanted to do it, is to meet people?
not exactly. I've ever since I was small, I just really had an idea. I wanted to make people smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across this famous VTuber called Iron Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
I started to watch her, and I was like, oh, maybe I should try that.
No.
And then, it came by naturally.
Yeah, at that point, once you got into it, the flow kind of came to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. I love the stories like this where folks get started on something and it's almost like this was waiting for you to show up.
Exactly. It's like, oh, it's just calling to me in a
Yes,
sense.
yes, it was out there honking its horn, waiting for you to be ready to go.
Exactly.
So once you did get in and get going, and you got a few more people showing up, and you get a little momentum. I know you weren't watching the viewer count or anything like that, but I'm sure you noticed, and you started to get the input from the chat and things going. Did that affect you in any way? Did it make you more nervous?
Uh, yes, actually.
Um,
So, there was this one time where I was raided by a big VTuber,
mm-hmm.
Bo Sheep,
Oh,
and
oh yeah,
suddenly there were 300 people
yeah,
in my chat,
yeah.
and usually only like a few people talk,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, no, I really got to make sure to do everything right.
Bo's something else. I interviewed Bo in the first couple of weeks when we did this early in the year. I'm gonna have to get Bo back on and talk more because a lot of things have happened for her since then. But yeah, that's something else. All of a sudden, you're triple digits and not just small ones either.
Exactly. It's like just so many people in the room suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always imagine VTubing like having actual people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh my God, 300 people in my small room. I wouldn't be able to breathe. So I was like, are you guys enjoying this? Should I change it up? And everyone just kind of loved it and went on with the flow. And Bo Sheep really liked the way I treated their community. So
Yeah, yeah,
it was really nice.
yeah. Bo's a veteran and knows how it does, and Bo's community is something else too. And I'm really glad that you got to taste that a little bit. 'Cause sometimes you hear about raids and they don't last very long, and you don't really get that much of a rub. But Sounds like you got a pretty good one, at least to your ego a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It definitely inflated my ego quite a lot.
Yeah.
But when things came back to normal, I was just, I was just going with the flow. It didn't really change me, and I did actually get like questions like, "Oh, would you still be yourself if you're a large VTuber?" I'm like, I think so.
Well,
I'm not planning to change.
yeah. But if the opportunity came along to be a big VTuber, you wouldn't like pass it up.
I wouldn't pass it up. I mean, if I get financially stable out of it
Yeah,
and
yeah. Somebody
you
gave you a
know,
$1 million check or
if
something.
the opportunity is there, then
Yeah,
why not?
yeah. When somebody gives me that much money, I'll probably give it a shot.
Exactly.
I'm not turning it down. I'll tell you that. But
Exactly.
but you've been able to grow organically. I mean, you've been able to get some traction going on your own with this too. How heartening is that for you?
It's so crazy because I remember when I got my first follower
Mm.
and I was literally telling them like, why are you following me? Like, why? And they're like, oh, but I like you. And like, oh, really? Like I was so surprised, and now I am almost hitting my 1K goal, and everything is just going the way it's going. But every time I just think of like when I was really small and people just came by, and I was just like, "Why are you here?" And now I'm like, "Oh, welcome."
Yeah, yeah. It's it's some people say it's luck, but there's luck involved in this a little bit, but there's also positioning yourself, and it comes down to in any type of performance, and this I call this a performance, is the personality. They come back for the personality. Has that hit you yet?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people also tend to say that they really like my voice. Because
Hmm.
a lot of people tend to put in a really high pitched voice, and I just use my regular speaking voice
Yeah.
and matching with my personality. Because I'm like this calming, chaotic little ball that sometimes very hyper, sometimes very calm, and
Yes.
it's like a perfect balance, as people like to call it.
And so when you're on and you're exhibiting that perfect balance, what are your streams like? What do you like to do?
I like to start with a little bit of just chatting,
Hmm.
getting the community ready and kind of just getting into it. And after like an hour, I'm just gaming. And I really like psychological horror games,
Mm,
where it's like, it makes you think.
yeah,
Because I do game design, but if I didn't do game design, I would have studied psychology. So
yeah. Well,
it's really interesting
and
for
that
me.
would be a great major minor, wouldn't it? Games, helping construct games, and then with a psychological psychology, you really would come up with some thrillers there when you're done.
Exactly.
That almost seems unfair. But coming from that background, I mean, coming from studying those, when you see a game come out and you start playing it, are you looking at it differently than the average gamer, you think?
I tend to analyze the characters
Mm,
from the way I see them. Because usually, people play it or they speed run the game and they just want it to be finished. But
mm,
I like to listen and analyze the story. Like maybe the villain had a reason to be bad, or maybe the hero isn't the hero after all.
ah,
Kind of like these things.
so
I'd
you're
like to just analyze the story and kind of put my summarization out of it.
you're going in with the surgeon scalpel and dicing and parsing everything to make sure. Why did they do that? Why did they do this?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So does that affect how you enjoy a game?
Not really. I mean, sometimes, when I'm offline, I have times where I don't want to overanalyze stuff.
Right.
Because, I have times where I just want to enjoy cozy games.
Mm,
Like, for example, farming games, yeah, there's lore in them, but I prefer just, farming,
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, 'cause games
doing
like
my own
Stardew
stuff.
Valley, there's lore all over the place, and they keep adding stuff to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to get into some of those guys' backgrounds? And I don't want to hear what the mayor had going on. Okay, he sounds like he's on his own planet for the most part. Anyway, I'm not gonna. So does that
True, true, true. I agree.
well with your interests and with your education and what you've gone into? Does it disappoint you sometimes when the game doesn't follow through on something you're expecting?
No, not really. I think of it like I can predict
Hmm.
some stuff. I'm very good at predicting games and how they end.
Right.
But, sometimes it doesn't go the way that I think it goes. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, something that is unexpected, something surprising. And yes, just throw it at me, throw it at me. Because
Mm,
then I would like to know, like, oh, why did it go like that?
mm.
And
That's it.
I'm never disappointed in games, honestly.
That's almost like the equivalent of a jump scare.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're expecting, oh, this person's going to be this, and then suddenly something happens that's out of character, or something that you're not expecting, and then you get thrown back. While the average person at home without the background is like, okay, and just keeps going with the story.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. You're just blown out of your mind.
Why in the world do they do that? And everybody's like, oh, because he's a bad guy. No, no, I've got all these explanations here in my PowerPoint. I'll show you. Uh, so when you're streaming these games, do you uh, do you throw that background in as you're talking with chat, as you kind of analyze as you go?
Yeah, I analyze as I go. I do that with, for example, the game Doki Doki Literature Club,
Oh my
which
God.
seems like a very cute game at first, and then it goes into very dark topics.
Oof.
And I play along with the game.
Yeah.
And when it hits one of those moments, I'd like to just stop the game for a second. And
Hmm.
I'm like, well, it could have gone differently if the character did this or
Hmm.
this or this,
Yeah.
then it won't happen or whatever. And with games like these, what really makes you think, because at first it seems very cutesy,
Hmm.
and then it's suddenly not. And I just go with the flow. And at the end, I make like my summarization of what I think.
Oh my gosh. For that game, how many pages did you need?
A lot,
Yeah.
but then again, I played it maybe 8 times.
Yeah.
So
Try to get every different possible thing out of that game. I, I
exactly.
I've watched that do it so much I don't need to play it, and I know the lore and everything that goes into it. That, I mean, consider that was pretty much a one man show to put that together.
Yeah.
That was, it, and people have their ideas on the game, but it grabs you pretty good.
Exactly, and that's what I like about psychological horror games,
Mm,
because it kind of messes with how you think. A lot of people think like, oh, maybe they did it because of that. Other people may think like, oh, but maybe there's another story to it. And I'd like to consider both sides
mm.
and then make my own evaluation out of it.
Sounds like you'd have your own television show back in the '70s. You'd be you'd be the detective that looks from the psychological side at why the murder happened.
Probably, probably. I would totally do that. Sign me up, TV.
But this, so would you rather have? I call this the long con horror game as opposed to the jump scare type of thing. Um, do you like the jump scare type games?
I get easily jump scared, very
Yeah,
easily.
yeah.
Because I'm so focused in the game that it just, something small might happen. For example, glass breaks in a game. I'm like, what? What did that happen in my room?
Yes.
So I'm looking in my room like, did something break? But it happened in a game. And
Oh.
I don't like games that are super jump scary. But if it's like a consistency of story and jump scares, then I
Mhm.
don't mind.
Yeah, it brings up something I've never really thought of because I'm an old man as far as I mean I was there for the earliest games that came out,
Mm-hmm.
and in shock games and horror games back then, the realism of the sound effects wasn't really there. It was like that was something breaking or somebody getting hit with something, and we didn't have that type of scare so much other than the timing type scare. Nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
with the more realistic sounds and the ability to have a headset and hear it behind you or in front of you, that type, that adds a lot to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I because I study game design.
Uh,
A lot of people just tend to record it like actual real sounds.
mm-hmm,
For example, they would actually break real glass,
hmm
or if you hear footsteps, it would literally be the sound of a game dev just recording his own footsteps.
right.
So that's what makes it, I think, very intriguing. How they make the game feel more natural.
Yeah, and that definitely adds to the atmosphere, which will lead to the scares. Um,
Exactly.
and it reminds me a lot of the old radio dramas, back even before I was born, a long time ago. Um, and they would use the sound effects. Everyone would have the sound effects person that would be able to recreate a sound of a broken glass or a broken dish or even footsteps. And doing that correctly added so much to the script.
Yeah, it's amazing how much accuracy it can add to a story and how much it can just add to the atmosphere itself.
So, as you study the game design, um, do you does it affect you when you're playing any type of game, even the farming simulator type games, when you see something that maybe the author could have done better?
I just give my honest opinion. I don't mind getting backlash if someone doesn't agree with me. I will just say like, oh, it's a good game.
Hmm
And I like this aspect and this aspect. Because usually how I tend to give feedback is I start with the positive things first.
Yeah.
And then I start to give my own opinion. Maybe it could have been better if, I don't know, they used like a different sound for the footsteps to
hmm
make it more feel more real or something like that. But usually I don't have that much to say because, making a game is hard. I
hmm
know the struggles.
Yeah.
And I'm already very proud that a lot of indie companies can just, create games and earn a little money out of it.
Yeah. And in a giant corporate world of these things, um, that there's still plenty of good independent games out there that people can get into and enjoy. Um, a lot of there's a few of them now that are doing the one man show. I mean, you mentioned the Doki Doki. I mean, Dan Salvino pretty much doing his own thing, and then
Mm-hmm.
the Concerned Ape with like Stardew Valley. That's all his show. Have you seen more people trying to do games on their own, or is that really much a unicorn when that happens?
It's really rare, really like a unicorn. You rarely see it. I think it's also because a lot of people don't want to take the risk of making a game by themselves
Mm-hmm.
because it requires hard work and a lot of skills because you have to make art, you have to do the UX design, and then also think about the game mechanics, gameplay, the story. And usually, why a lot of big companies succeed is everyone has a different task. But then imagine a job of maybe like 30 or 40 people and
Mm-hmm.
only doing it by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which what makes it very hard.
Yeah, it does, and puts a lot of pressure on yourself, and you can't really take any time off if you want it to be
Exactly. It's
successful.
like it's like a job for a lifetime.
Yeah, and every day it becomes and you have to use your own resources to do it too. You can't fall back on the company. We need more pencils. No, you have to go back and You have to go buy your own and bring it into to work
Yep.
to do these types of things, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons, besides having a lack of skill, that I won't get into making any games anytime soon. Too much work on that particular part. Well, has it been a work for you or a labor of love getting your channel going?
Oh, it's sometimes work, but I let it just grow naturally.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people also tend to say like, "Oh, you're very lucky because you've grown so fast." Because I've been only doing it for like a year and 3 months, and a lot of people that have been doing it for 3 years are like have like less followers than me. But I also tell them that yes, of course, luck is in there, but like you said, personality is what counts.
Hmm.
And also, I don't take it for granted. I just let people come in, and if they want to stay, they can stay. But if they want to watch someone else, I won't stop them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how you get new viewers in the first place, is people coming in and trying it out. Um, that's they'll come in and they'll a lot of them will probably just lurk in the background, and then they'll feel more comfortable to be a part of conversations and chat and such. I would, if I was a VTuber, and I'm not in any shape or form, I would be more worried about people showing up for the first time and immediately starting to be a part of chat, trying to kind of take over the show without any introductions. Have you had that happen at all?
Oh, yes,
Oh.
in good ways and in very bad ways.
Mm.
Whereas, someone comes in, and for me, the first time chatter mark is like the first impression. Like when someone says hello
Hmm.
and doesn't say hello properly, you're already like, oh, that's how
Yeah.
I am in real life. But also when I see someone say something, I'm like, oh, okay. And then they keep on yapping and keep on yapping and keep on yapping and keep on yapping. I'm like,
Right.
oh, chill,
Yeah.
chill, chill. Yeah,
Yeah. At that point, it just kind of seems they're looking for a place to dump everything on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've had people that just come into my streams to trauma dump. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I love psychology and everything, but I'm not a therapist.
Hmm.
Maybe seek one.
Yeah. Yeah. And 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 don't try to bring everybody else in the chat along with your ride, please. Uh,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So, do you see your channel as a place for people to come and escape? And is it an escape for you too?
Oh, yes, many times. For me, it's like, I have my average kind of life. Sometimes life is a bit messy. And then I'm streaming, I'm like, oh, I can just relax, play games, and, talk to my friends
Hmm.
and kind of just have fun. For me, it's also a bit of escape of reality, but it's also become more of a natural thing to me.
Hmm. It's just become it's woven into your to your life now as a
Exactly.
part of it. So, well, it's still enjoyable though, obviously for you.
Oh, it's very enjoyable. I love every single day. And there, of course, there has been days where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not meant to do this because, you had a bad week
Hmm.
and things didn't go well and you don't have any viewers or whatsoever, no chatters. And
Hmm.
you're like, oh, life sucks. But then again, it's just a hobby. And if things go wrong, it's like an art piece. Sometimes you have good drawings, sometimes you have bad ones.
Mm. And well, for some people, but I just have bad ones, and then I have even worse ones, and then they pass laws to make sure I don't have pencils in my hands. That's how bad. That's how bad mine gets. Uh, when that happens, and you just sometimes things just don't work right. It catches you wrong. Or how do you work through it?
I work through it by talking to people that I know because I am part of an amazing VTuber community called the Eternal Family.
Mm.
And they're like more than 200 members.
Wow.
And so, I'm just venting there, or I'm asking people for advice, like some closest friends of mine,
Yeah.
sometimes even my family.
Mhm.
And I'm just, kind of like venting, and then they're giving their kind of point of view, because usually I like to speak to people that are not dads
Right.
into my streaming. Some of my friends, my real life friends, are like, yeah, I mean, I can give you an unbiased opinion. I'm like, yes, please do.
Come in and see what's going on here, whether it's good, bad, or. But in the end, it's still your. I mean, it's got your marks all over it. You've created it. It's your thing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your creation. Um, and given how things have grown for you, how proud are you at this point?
Oh, I'm very proud because when I first started out, and it took me 3 or 4 months to get to 30 followers.
Mm,
And now I'm almost to 1K. And so that means I've grown a lot within a short span of time. But also, I'm very proud that I'm capable of being a voice to people that, for example, had a traumatic past, or that, if they just want to have a place where they can just chill and not worry about anything, that I'm capable of giving them that kind of safe space.
mm, it's I'm gonna do my amateur psychologically thing here. So bear with the old man a little bit, please. Is that what, when you got on and saw folks doing this, was that what you were looking for when you watched other people doing VTubing?
Mm, for me, VTubing was just a form of entertainment to watch, because
Mm,
I used to just watch it when I was studying,
mm,
and I was, trying to multitask, and I wanted to have something in the background.
mm,
But when I saw how much of an impact it made on some people,
right.
I was like, maybe I can be a voice too.
Mm, yeah, absolutely, and a positive one, and
Exactly.
and I imagine you're getting a lot back from it too. So, I mean,
I just love every single moment.
yeah,
And there's this one chatter that was maybe my 30th follower,
mm,
and he became one of the closest friends.
mm, yep,
And so it just brought me a lot of good, and I'm very, very happy with just how far I've come. And I don't know how far I will come, but we'll
but
see.
well, I mean that this is one of the great things about this medium, is that the potential is almost endless. You could be watched by somebody in a on a cell phone next to you on the train, or on a big giant computer on the other side of the planet at the same time.
And that's insane. And that's why I love it, because you bring so many people together.
Yeah, and people who don't even understand what you're saying in different
Yeah.
languages. Yeah, sometimes that goes too. People very rarely understand what I'm saying at all, and I do appreciate. I appreciate if they come close. But
Oh, I do appreciate it.
yeah,
And for me, sometimes it also feels a bit weird, because I've had people that speak Japanese
hmm,
come into my streams. I'm like, I mean, yes, I can speak German, I can speak Dutch, and I can speak English, maybe a little bit of French and Spanish, but not Japanese for me. So if you want to have a conversation in Japanese, I'm very sorry.
German, German and French at the same time.
Yes, I'm from Europe, and in
Right?
Europe it's very common
Yeah.
to speak a lot of languages.
Yes. I wish I would have studied when I was younger, because it's a little tougher at the age I am to do it than would have been as a kid. But um, I would have loved to have learned another language, whether it's French or Spanish or anything along those lines. Especially now that I get to the point where I'm looking up my roots, the ancestry, and
Mm-hmm.
I find that there's a lot of folks that are from France that came over and went through Canada. Well, I don't know a single word of French. I I didn't I knew a little bit of Spanish from watching television shows, but now I'm like, I should probably learn that because it's my ancestry, that type of thing. But um, is that something that was taught in your schools? You did you choose to do the different languages, or did you was it something that was regular?
I was pretty much just you're being forced to because
Mm,
it's very common,
yeah.
and kind of like necessary to learn a lot of languages. Because, for example, in my country where I live, there's a lot of German connections, and so you have to know German because
Mm,
very close to them, and
right.
lots of tourists and everything. So very common. Then French is also a very popular language,
Mm,
so you also have to learn that. And then, for example, with Spanish, that is something that I chose when I was in college
mm-hmm.
because I had to choose a language. I was like, why not learn Spanish?
Yeah, and I also envy you because you can find the right word for a situation in several different languages. Uh,
Yes and no.
yeah. Well, really?
I mean, I am, my brain is full of languages,
Yeah.
and that is a good thing, but sometimes a very much bad thing.
Oh,
Because sometimes I know a word when I'm speaking in English, I know it in German,
yeah.
and then I'm trying to explain it, but that doesn't work. Or when I know what it means, but in none of the languages that I know the word anymore. Sometimes it's like this big puzzle that the languages are just shoved together
Yeah.
and you're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah. Kind of a Rubik's cube of language.
Exactly.
I've almost got this side completed. Oh, now it's all messed up.
And then you just give up.
Yeah. Just set it down there and break it and put it back together again, right? I win. The So what are your goals right now for your channel? A realistic goal, and do you have one of those pie in the sky goals for your channel too?
For me, I guess I have this goal going on that if I hit 1,000 followers, I will release my first ever debut song because I'm a singer and I finally wrote a song that I was proud of. And I was like, oh, maybe I could use that as a goal. And then I started to think about maybe I could also aim for maybe like a higher follower goal or maybe that collabing with different people and just seeing if I can go to TwitchCon
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff.
So have you been doing any collaborations?
I have, but usually my collaborations are within my friend group
Mm.
because, I'm not someone that will just go on the internet and be like, hey, so Iron Rose, want to collab with me?
And she says yes. Now what are you going to
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God, she says yes.
do?
No, but for me, I like to think about if I get bigger and maybe to a big enough level, which I don't know will happen. I guess the possibilities are endless.
Right.
But I do eventually want to collab with a big VTuber,
Mm-hmm.
one that I admire,
Mm-hmm.
and to see if we can get along.
Yeah. Oh, from talking to you now, I don't see how anybody couldn't get along with you.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure talking with you. And again, one of the reasons why I enjoy doing this so much is meeting people like yourself from different backgrounds and different reasons and different talents for doing that. And people come from a lot of different angles, but this entire situation seems to fit everybody that I talk to. Do you think that this was really a great fit for you, and it was just a matter of time before you did it?
I think so, because it just came so naturally, like I said before, because I just really wanted to make people smile. And for me, it was either, oh, I make a game and I make people smile because, I love to see people play my game.
Right.
Or I can be like not an internet sensation, but maybe like a kind of like inspiration
Mm.
for people that want to be heard, or that people can just come to see me and then just have a wonderful time.
Yeah, well, folks, we're going to put all of the links we've been able to find for Zeros Ocean up on the description of this interview, and you've got to check out what Zeros has going on. I really do appreciate you coming on. It's great to meet you, and you've got a great outlook to this, and I can just see your channel continuing to grow.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.